Hi, it's Nicola and welcome. Today I have a case study for you. It's Secrets to Writing My 100-Year-Old Grandmother's Autobiography. And stay tuned as I have a 50% off deal and free sections to the Your Family Story system, which will help you record the life stories of your loved one. A quick introduction. Forever Young Autobiographies is a place to learn how to write life stories for family and friends so that unique memories can live on. And it'd be terrific if you could follow, subscribe and like the show. Now, it's taken me about 4 years together with my grandmother to help plan, write, polish and publish her autobiography. Now, this story's had its ups and downs, and I've previously shared some updates on how we were going with this process. So this is the third one. This is where we go from final manuscript to published book, set against the backdrop of coronavirus and my grandmother turning 100. So a quick recap for those who haven't had that previous updates of the past two case studies. So basically what we did was I interviewed my grandmother each week for a couple of months. We got all those interview recordings transcribed and I typed them up into a readable format. We had about 45,000 words and they were put into a professional book design template. And then this time last year, handed that over to my grandmother and she read through it all and did some edits. She was really fast and she got back to me quite quickly. It landed in my mailbox and I went through it carefully and updated it all. It did take me probably about a couple of hours a week for several months to get that all correct. She had done it by hand, so there were some bits that I could read quite easily and others when her hand was a bit stiffer that I had to then cross-check and make sure I'd done it correctly. I then sent it off to a sub-editor friend to have a final look. So that was a bit of a lucky thing for me in that I work in newspapers and I knew a few sub-editors and I could just have the luxury of passing that on to someone. And she took a little while to get back to me, which was fine. She did a really thorough job, but in that time I found out that my grandmother had had a fall at home and she'd broken her hip and she was going in for surgery. So I just thought, oh my goodness, the pressure is really on now. I've got to find a printer, I've got to get this thing out there, I've got to get it done. And so I had a few criteria to get the printer, to select a printer. Mostly that one, we wanted it to be hard copy, that we were only going to do a smallish print run, and that we wanted it to be just a private book. We didn't want it for sale, so we didn't want it to go out there on the internet to the wider world, so it had to be private. And finally, it had to be a pretty good price point, nothing too expensive, like hopefully under the $25 per book mark. And I did find one. I found IngramSpark. They were able to do all of this, and I think price per book it was 17 Australian dollars, and then you added in handling and postage costs. So I thought that was pretty good. About this time, my grandmother was in rehab and then learning to walk so she could get back home. And I was learning to navigate the IngramSpark's book processing setup. And basically, this is where you fill in some information about your book and you upload 2 PDF files. There's the interior part of your book, which is the actual stories, the printed pages. And then you've got the outside of your book. So that includes the front cover, the back cover and the spine. So that was just uploaded and put online into their system. I did have a bit of trouble with the cover because you can really only get your cover sorted at the very last minute because you need to know the number of pages and therefore the width of your spine. And IngramSpark has a really great cover generator which will put out a template specifically for your book. And I had a design already made up that my grandmother liked for the cover image and I did that in Canva. But I was having a real time getting those two to be put together. And I could have worked it out myself, but I had heard that my grandmother, who was now back at home, had had another fall and she had broken the other hip. And I was just like, oh, I can't spend the time to get this worked out. I got a freelancer on Upwork. She was a really good book designer and she sorted the cover image out for me in about an hour and a half. It was about US $30 and it was worth its weight in gold because I just didn't need that stress at that time, hearing this bad news about my grandmother again. She was being rushed for emergency surgery. So my family and I, we went to the hospital. We saw her just before she went in to have this second lot of surgery. She was upbeat. She was really positive. I mean, 99 years old, anything can happen. And she was just, no, I'm going to get home. I'm going to get walking again. So we left her. We went outside downtown to have something to eat while the surgery was going. And you should have seen the sky. It was Armageddon orange. It looked like hell out there. It was the start of Australia's catastrophic bushfire season. And I was just like, oh, I hope this is not a really bad omen. But luckily, it's a miracle. My grandmother survived the operation. She went back to rehab. And miracle, what it seemed like for me, was that I got her first reader's copy of the book in the mail. So I've got a copy here. It came back. It's beautiful. It was so professionally done and my grandmother absolutely loved it. She just didn't want to let it go. Started crying when I gave it to her. And I let her just go through that initial copy, making some edits, any things that we missed. And then I took it back and uploaded any changes to the IngramSpark's printing file. And then the plan was we were going to get a small print run done to give out on her 100th birthday with a family party. But there's more drama. We had the global pandemic, coronavirus hit. And so it's thrown everything into chaos, as you know, and I've talked about it here on the show. So we had planned a family party at my grandmother's home on the river. It was going to be great. But then nothing has really hit home for me about the changes for coronavirus than a 100th birthday party under lockdown. So basically what this involved was my family and I outside the nursing home window, behind a fence, in a sort of a laneway, trying to have a chat through the wire fence. I mean, we spoiled her as rotten as best we could. Balloons, gifts, cards, the kids had made posters. You know, a very different birthday party, I must say. But I was very lucky in that myself, my aunt and uncle, we'd had flu shots a month earlier and the nursing home let visitors in. It wasn't completely shut, but there was strict protocols. So we had to show our flu shot documentation on entry. We had to have our temperature taken and we had to maintain social distancing at all times. But I tell you, it was the best feeling when I gave her that box of books, or when we gave her that box of books on her birthday, 100 during a pandemic. And I just thought, my goodness, I would never have imagined this when I started the project, that this was going to happen. So I did sort of underestimate how long the process would take. You know, I thought I would be able to get it done just sort of while I was on maternity leave. But it had a lot of ups and downs. But I must say, I've learned so much about my beautiful grandmother. She's just so strong and courageous with those surgeries. I have no words. And I learned a lot about my family and, of course, about how to face life's difficulties. Now, we had her birthday last week, and there was another bit of good news that last week she also welcomed another great-grandchild. So we've got a new edition, and I'm just really thankful that we've managed to get this book printed. It's out there. My grandmother signed copies, and that's there for this new grandchild as he gets older too. So that's what every aspiring life story writer ought to know about doing a family story book, like an autobiography, like what I've done with my grandmother here. So what I want you to get out of this case study is to realize that writing an autobiography, or whether it's a life story project, memoir, biography, or something else, that it really is a journey. It's taking a lot of commitment, but it's got so many rewards. So just remember that. It's so worthwhile. Now, if you want to know in detail a bit more about this whole book process, you can head over to my website. The latest installment is at foreveryoungautobiographies.com/autobiography, and I'll have links to all the resources and tools that I use, plus some costings for your budget. And there's pictures of the book, of my grandmother, and especially one of her on her birthday. So it's been a really grand milestone for her. So please check that out. It's at foreveryoungautobiographies.com/autobiography. Now, while you're there and while you're here, leave me a comment. Are you thinking of doing a life story project like I did? Who are you going to do it on and why? I'd love to know, and I'm sure other people listening to the show, tuning into the show, will be interested. So leave us a comment. And before I go, I mentioned the 50% off and the free sections to the Your Family Story system. Now, this is a step-by-step process on how to interview a loved one and compile it all like I did. So I will be there holding your hand and helping you along the way with all my tips and tricks. You can get the 50% off deal. I've had that going while we're in sort of the lockdown for the coronavirus. I was going to shut it off this week, but I thought I'm going to extend it one more week to celebrate my grandmother's 100th birthday. So this deal will be closing really soon, so you want to get on board. It's at foreveryoungautobiographies.com/deal. And if you'd like to have a look at the first few sections of that, you can sign up. That's free at foreveryoungautobiographies.com/free. So please take advantage of that. I really want us to record as many life stories as we can. Now, I'll be back again soon with a new topic. So again, it's really terrific if you follow, subscribe, and like the show. And until then, happy writing.